Hey everyone, Kelly Mahler, occupational therapist, and I'm here to answer some toileting questions, toilet learning, or potty learning, elimination, whatever you want to call it. We offered to answer questions, and we got a lot of questions. So I'm going to do my very best to answer as many questions as I possibly can. We kind of grouped them together. There's a lot of themes, similar themes across a lot of the questions that you asked. I'm going to spend about 20-25 minutes like trying to get through as many questions as possible. If we don't get to your question, feel free to email us at info@kelly-mahler.com. And also, I'm so excited. Check out our toileting course that's coming on March 25th, 2026. And if you're watching this free Q&A after the fact, this course is available on my website as a recording. I'm teaching it with Sahana Baker Malone. She is an occupational therapist. She also is a pelvic health specialist. And when I tell you, she is just such an amazing resource for supporting toileting, learning. She's amazing. Every time I get stumped, I go right to Sahana. I'm like, help me. I don't know what to do to support this client. And her ideas are so clever and so amazing. And we're so excited to teach you our framework in supporting toilet learning, especially for kids or adults that are having some barriers to that process. So I hope this free Q&A is helpful, but check out our course as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and dive in. So someone, first of all, was asking, like, what is an expected like age range for someone to develop interoceptive awareness, the awareness of our body signals enough to be able to expect independent toileting. They were talking about how the age range they've heard is about 2 to 5, which seems like a really big age range. And that is very true. Like what I have learned so much about interoception over the years is that there is no specific timeline, and each person's body develops differently. It experiences different life journeys differently. Some things that we experience in our life help kind of protect our interoception learning and keep us connected to our bodies. And then also a lot of very common experiences can derail us from our bodies. And so there's not really a very traditional lens that we could say, it is developmentally appropriate to be independent in toileting at this age or this age. Each person's body is so different. And if we really want to take an affirming approach, we will embrace, or I think get better as a society at embracing each person's body and the speed that they develop toileting. So I see so much pressure on kids because we have these developmental norms, like all kids should be, independent in toileting by age 5, so they're ready to go to school. Like that just puts pressure on families, on children. And what we know is that the more stress, the more pressure that is on a child, the less connected they are going to be to their bodies to get those signals that they actually need for potty learning. So I know it's like easier said than done, but to reduce the stress, to reduce the pressure as much as we can, and follow each child or each adult's body and their readiness journey. The next person's asking their child will avoid pooping at school, and they'll hold it in and wait until the very last minute till they get home. How can I help him feel more comfortable in letting us know or go in different environments like school? So I would just really encourage you to get reflective and think about what possibly is creating safety and comfort at home, in the bathroom, and really helping him to feel safe enough to notice first of all, to notice his body, right? Those feelings of needing to poop, but then also feeling safe enough to let it go and to be able to eliminate in the toilet. So consider your sensory environment at home. Consider the toilet. Do you have a stool? Like what parameters do you have in place that is encouraging or promoting that success? And then how can we push some of those similar safety strategies into a restroom at school. And there's so many different accommodations if we get creative at school. I know that, we are, have some limits that we have to work within, but is there a private bathroom that we could set up with some of these comfort items from similar to home, so that they have access to maybe a private bathroom where there's not a lot of stalls, there's not a lot of different people flushing toilets and washing their hands and setting off hand dryers. Like, how do we create a little cocoon, almost a little safety area where your son might be able to feel safe enough to access? And I guarantee you that he's not the only student that has a body that might need that in order to feel safe pooping. The next person's asking, why do I not know when I need to pee when I'm in burnout? And I think this person's probably referring to neurodivergent or autistic burnout. And what we've learned from the community of people that have experienced autistic burnout is that this is not true for everyone, but that one of the first things that happens is that the interoceptive system really kind of goes on mute. Now, of course, this is, like I said, not going to happen for everyone. Sometimes someone's signals might get even more heightened. But when we surveyed the community a few months ago when we did our autistic burnout course, we found that a lot of people were reporting that inner experience just goes really muted. They don't get a lot of reliable signals from their body. Their nervous system is in a collapse. And usually that goes hand in hand with the external sensory world getting heightened. And so what I think probably is happening there is like there's something to do with the nervous system collapse, but also because the sensory world outside a person's body is becoming so loud and so much more intense, it's just naturally going to pull your attention to be more hypervigilant on the external world out of protection for your body. Like, that's just the way our body is designed. If our body feels under threat by the external world, we are going to be watching and waiting and in an attempt to protect ourselves. So that leaves a lot, a reduced amount of attentional resources left to be able to pay attention to how our body feels. So I think there's like a couple of factors going hand in hand of why your P signals might be disappearing. And so while you're in autistic burnout, then, how do you kind of support that? Maybe just temporarily going to the bathroom on a schedule while you're healing your body, hopefully. Hopefully that's possible for you to heal your body and get those signals back online eventually. But when you're like in the moment of crisis, to put some supports and strategies in place, like going to the bathroom on a schedule until you start to get more connected to your body. The next question, I work in a special school with predominantly non-speaking children. And we got a lot of questions about how to support toilet learning in non-speaking children. And this person's saying, I'm finding it hard to explore interoception with them, especially toileting signals. I need some new ideas. So I just want to kind of give you some thoughts and directions, and this goes for everyone that submitted your non-speaking questions. So first of all, one of the strategies that can be really helpful is adult interoception modeling. And what I mean by that is us as adults talking out loud about the way our body feels during daily activities. Now, you don't have to start with toileting, and maybe you're not even going to feel comfortable doing this with students, but we can get the parents at home on board. But you can still talk out loud about the way your body feels outside of toileting. So what I mean by that is like talking about like, maybe like, oh gosh, like my hands they feel so wet right now. I'm going to dry them off with a paper towel. So you're talking out loud about the body signal you're noticing and how you're going to take care of it. And if you're really if you practice this a lot and you narrate your body signals out loud with what you're noticing and how you're taking care of that signal, first of all, kids are getting exposure to this invisible process. Like, the interoception is often invisible. And so if we are modeling out loud for them, they are getting kind of a window into this invisible process. We know that so many non-speaking children and adults are soaking in way more than what people often credit them for. So we're presuming competence with this strategy. And so really, once you get the hang of it, you can start to think about like descriptors or situations that might replicate some of the toileting sensations that will be helpful. So for example, if you're not comfortable saying like, oh gosh, like I had such a tingly feeling underneath my belly button, I think I have to pee, I'm going to go to the toilet and find out. So that would be modeling a toileting sensation, but maybe you're just not comfortable with that. Maybe you are. But you can still talk about like when your hands feel wet or dry or messy or clean or tight or loose. These are all important toileting sensations, so you can still be working towards that goal. So start vague with lots of different signals you're noticing and how you're going to take care of them. Like, gosh, it's so loud in here. Oh my gosh, my ears hurt. I'm going to put on my noise canceling headphones. So you are talking out loud about your inner experience. You're modeling that you have these signals you're paying attention to. You're modeling that you're taking care of those signals. And they are getting access to this interoception process, or getting access to interoception vocabulary and language. And we know that they're such little sponges, and so they're taking it up. Another thing I really encourage you to do is start to really become so observant and watchful of their bodies and what their bodies are doing prior to elimination. What we find in so many cases is that there are small little signs that show us that they might need to poop or they might need to pee. And so the first phase of that is just watch, observe, like be really, really watchful. Sometimes we miss those little signals because we're so focused on, other things, and rightfully so. There's no judgment here. Or sometimes we kind of skip over those things because we're so watchful of quote unquote behavior, and to manage behavior, that we miss really important signals that could be eventually our window in to that toileting signal, or to that toileting process for that. So watch for the signals. Get your parents on board if they're not part of this process. Parents are the experts many times. They know their kids' signals many times, not always, because they're very subtle and hard to find. But get so many people that know the person really well and start really watching for those signals. Another thing you can do is non-judgmentally start talking about what you see their body doing prior to elimination, prior to peeing or pooping. So saying something like, oh goodness, like I noticed your body's starting to get like a little wiggly. I wonder what's going on. Or gosh, like I noticed that your eyes are like starting to water right now. I wonder what's going on in your body. So you're just wondering, you're being curious, you're bringing their attention to their body with no pressure. Again, there's no pressure. We really have to eliminate the pressure in toileting. The minute stress goes up, the minute anxiety goes up, it's really going to create this power dynamic for many kids. It's going to create stress, which kicks interoception offline, and interoception is the foundation of toileting. We need to be noticing our body signals in order to be able to manage our elimination needs on a toilet successfully. So again, I know it can be really hard to keep the pressure off of kids and adults, but do your best to try to keep that regulation in place. Model your own inner experiences. Start to watch for their clues of when they're going to pee and when they're going to poop. And then also start talking out loud about what you see their body doing. We're not interpreting what we see their body doing. We're not saying it looks like you need to pee or it looks like you need to poop. We're talking about what we see their body doing in an objective way. Like, I see your body wiggling. I see your eyes watering. I notice that you're, squatting behind the couch right now. So just talk about what you see their body doing, bring them a little bit more awareness and curiosity about that body. Okay, so are there difficulties noticing toileting interoception cues in daytime linked at all to nocturnal enuresis? So meaning difficulty noticing toileting sensations in the daytime linked to nighttime bedwetting. Again, this is going to be different for every single person's body. Some of my clients have difficulty noticing toileting signals during the day and at night. Sometimes they're very independent during the day and they still struggle noticing those signals at night. They're not strong enough to wake them out of sleep. What we do see a lot of times is doing interoception work can improve both toileting during the day and at night. Usually the nighttime signals kick in a little bit later than the daytime signals. because those signals have to be pretty strong for a lot of people at nighttime to wake them out of sleep. But again, we try really hard to keep the pressure out of it, to keep doing a lot of really playful, fun interoception activities that bring lots of curiosity and connection to their body signals that are not just related to toileting. So doing fun things to notice how your hands feel, or to notice how your feet feel, or notice how your nose feels, or notice how your heart feels. And then also incorporating the bladder and the bum. We can really be playfully supporting interoception connection during the day, and we do see that spilling over many times to a lot of toileting gains, both during the day, usually kicks in first, and then the nighttime. Of course, there's a lot of complicated factors that could be contributing to toileting readiness. A lot of times, like that nighttime bedwetting, you also want to get curious about constipation and making sure that constipation isn't present, because if someone's constipated, that can put a lot of pressure on the bladder, which can make the toileting process a little bit slower to evolve. Another person's asking, my teen says they know they need to have a BM only when their tummy is in pain. How do I help them know when to go before their tummy is in pain? So I'm just curious about this teen. Like, it's really awesome. First of all, I would, I know it's a teenager, so don't overdo it, but like, I think it's really cool that they're noticing a signal related to toileting. I'm sorry that it's pain. And so let's just like really focus and validate that first. So they're expressing pain in their tummy. Right now, that is their only signal for poop. So I think, it sounds like you're really doing a great job at believing them. So how do we help reduce the pain? Because when a body is in pain, sometimes it's hard to shift your attention to other signals. So I would love to really like support my clients if they're having pain. And I've learned so much about this from my co-speaker who's getting ready to do the toileting course with me, Sahana Baker Malone. She talks a lot about some really clever ways to reduce that pain from poop. So warm compresses on the abdomen can be helpful for some people. So that can be like a heating pad or a warm water bottle, gentle deep pressure. So like a little, not a very heavy weighted ball, but like a weighted ball, and just kind of gently rolling it back and forth across the belly, or maybe it's just a weighted lap pad that you're draping across the belly. Sometimes massage can be really helpful, or sometimes even belly breathing. That's really kind of decreasing the nervous system response, decreasing that stress response that often can also get heightened when someone's body is in pain in a very natural way. Our bodies are designed for that. So how do we bring your son's stress down and bring his pain down, and really honor that body signal that he is already sharing? I'm curious if that's just going to naturally help him start to notice other earlier signals, because right now the brain might be wired to even anticipate pain, meaning that if he's had pain before, like it sounds like he does have pain related to poop, the brain can start to anticipate that pain. So he might be noticing another signal. So let's just say, I don't know, it's a pokey feeling in his butt. But that pokey feeling has been linked to pain. He knows the pain's coming. So his brain might just completely jump to that pain in the stomach. So again, that kind of brings us back to why it's important to reduce the pain, so that other signals might come online. And of course, no one wants pain. So let's see if we can help him get that under control. Another person's asking about visual supports to help kids communicate and describe their feelings related to needing to poo. We have the body check ring, which is a resource on my website, and this person's talking about how it's been so helpful in supporting kids describe bladder feelings, but I don't have the bowel related sensations, and they're hard to describe. And if you're someone that's using the body check ring or the interoception curriculum, we don't have a lesson or menus to support describing and learning about those sensations related to poop. We are currently working on a second edition of the interoception curriculum, and there is going to be a new lesson for the bowels, and there's also going to be descriptor menus to support that process of noticing and describing. I don't want to kind of give you a cliffhanger there and keep you waiting, so just a couple different things that you might do, you can go to Google and just say, like, what are some different ways that people might come to describe bowel sensations, and create your own little menu, like pick the words that you think might be like kind of age appropriate for the people you're picking. But whenever possible, if we can get their words, we want to develop their body signal dictionary. So whether they feel pressure, or they feel a pokey feeling, or they feel pain, or they feel warmth, or they feel a brown spot. There's just so many different ways that someone can come to describe their pee and poop signals. So whenever possible, if we can get their words, obviously that's ideal. But I do know that some of my clients need a menu of ideas to get them started, and then they tend to create their own language. So you can use Google for that, and just do a quick Google search, and the AI answer summaries that are at the top of every Google search now can list out some words to get you started until we have that resource made. And a person was asking about a policy for preschools, and what do I suggest for preschool policies related to toileting? We want to support kids taking the time to learn these things, but it's also hard enough as it is to not have to handle all the pee. I totally hear you on that this is a really complicated discussion. And again, like, in westernized culture, we have said, oh, most kids should be, toilet trained somewhere between 2 and 5. And that's just not the way the bodies work. I wish that I could say it was, and that everyone's body should be ready by 5, but they're not. And so we really do need to have some serious conversations. And the fact that you're even asking this, I find to be really affirming. How do we adjust our policies to embrace all different bodies? Because some bodies are not going to be ready by the age of 4, the age of 5. And I know I've already mentioned this quite a few times, but the more pressure we put on a body, the likelihood of them getting to that independent place of toileting is going to be really reduced. And so how do we have these discussions and adjust policies? Because I know I talk to so many parents too that feel so under pressure. They want to pressure their kid to become, to do all this potty learning, so that they can go to a preschool, or they are ready to go to kindergarten. And so this pressure system is just like so ingrained in our society. And so I think this is a really great question, and thank you for whoever asked it, because our policies do need to be adjusted. So I think the more we can talk about the science of interoception and how each person's body really grows differently, and how some kids are just going to need a little bit more time. But that then brings on, staffing, and how do we prepare for a shifting policy if we're going to have more kids that are not ready to be independent toileters, and how are we going to support all of the pee like this person's asking? So it is a very a big systems conversation. I don't want to stand here and act like it's a very easy conversation, or I mean, not easy, but simple conversation, but it's a very important conversation. Another person asked, I'm interested in knowing the next step once you've worked through the interoception curriculum, and they're in the moment noticing if cues still isn't there and accidents are happening. So I'm really curious what happened with this person when you went through the interoception curriculum. Like, are they truly connecting to their own body signals? Are they accidentally somehow memorizing answers that they hear other people giving? Like, I do see this sometimes, like when we do group interoception work. Like, so for example, in the interoception curriculum, if you're not familiar, part 1 of the curriculum is doing a lot of different experiments to notice how our hands feel, or learn about the different ways our feet feel, or the different ways our mouth can feel. And we do lots of really fun experiments, like holding ice packs or hand warmers, or spritzing your hand with water, and giving practice noticing how our body feels, noticing how our hands feel. And we invite, if someone is ready for it, to describe what it is they're noticing as well. And if we're doing this in a group setting or a classroom setting, I do have some clients that will just repeat what other people are saying, and I just pay attention to that. And I think, first of all, our rule in the interoception curriculum is that we validate and believe any answer we hear. So even if you think they might be memorizing or kind of scripting back other answers other kids kids' answers that they hear. We want to validate what it is they're sharing with us, but tuck that away in your head and get curious. Like, are they really genuinely noticing body signals, their own body signals? Because usually what happens as we move outside of section 1, kids are so much more connected to their body signals. They're noticing so many different sensations, which naturally tends to spill over to toileting. We know that's the foundation for toileting, is noticing those body signals. What are my unique signals for pee? What are my unique signals for poop? What does my body need to feel safe in a bathroom situation? There's just how does my body feel when it's when I've wiped completely clean or it's still a little messy? Like, that's an interoception feel. So much interoception involved in this. So I would really get curious. Maybe, I don't know if you have the luxury of doing a little bit more interoception work with them in an individual session or individual scenario, and see, if they're really genuinely connecting to their own body. And if they are, what also could be happening is that you are creating this environment where you're encouraging, listen to your body. It's safe to listen to your body with me in this context. But then we know that there's so many contexts out there in our society where it's not safe to listen to your body. I'm wondering if this kid is exposed to a lot of compliance, maybe at school. Maybe they're in a highly, constructed or structured classroom with a lot of compliance, and that really just forces kids to ignore what their body actually needs in order to please other adults. So I'm wondering if there's a conflict there, but I would really suggest going back to that part 1 of the work and starting there and seeing if they're genuinely noticing their body signals, their own body signals, because usually we would start to see in the moment gains with that work. Another thing you could explore, there's a lot of things, but also exploring, do they feel safe in the bathroom? Because I'm wondering if maybe they're noticing the need to pee, but they just don't feel safe enough to eliminate in, when a toilet. And then the last question is, what's the evidence base behind interoception strategies to help with toileting? I'm especially interested in an experimental research. So my friend and colleague, Dr. Carrie Hample, she's an occupational therapist. She works at Elizabethtown College. She and some of the OT students have done a few studies looking at using the interoception curriculum with kids that needed more toileting support, and have had some really amazing gains, statistically significant gains in toileting. I do believe they are working on publishing those results. I don't know where Carrie stands in that process, but what I also want to say is this is a major area of need. So if you are interested in doing research yourself, reach out to us. We'd be very happy to help support you in getting a study going, because we do need to really put out more evidence of neuroaffirming, of kind, of gentle, of body-based, of neuroscience-based toileting approaches. So I hope this has been helpful. See you later.